Hiya, Squirt. So you've probably seen all the mayhem surrounding the Switch 2 pre-order fiasco, as well as all the hype and fury tied up with the console itself.
$90 games with tax, $100 fucking dollars. Base Madden, $100, 80 to what? Garbage. Your prices suck.
That was a great reveal. Cool. I'm definitely considering it.
Everyone on the internet seems like they're trying to pull a fast one on everyone else by publicly advocating for boycotting Nintendo while also secretly pre-ordering like 3 for themselves. At least that's what you'd think if you've been seeing the comment sections during Nintendo's live streams the past couple of weeks. It's clear that people are not happy with the pricing of this thing and the games that are coming out for it. But if you follow Nintendo YouTubers, game journalists, or just anyone who talks about this kind of thing for a living, there seems to be a different narrative. What started out as a shared disbelief and anger towards Nintendo for the pricing of this console seems to have cooled down to a mild consternation and begrudged acceptance of the price. Essentially, the Nintendo influencers are now saying, yeah, I wish the console was $50 cheaper and the games were $10 to $20 cheaper, but what you gonna do? We're all gonna buy it anyways, right, guys? And yeah, based off the pre-order sales, they're right. People are showing up in droves to get this thing they hate, and I love to see that. But there's a couple of caveats to the new narrative being pushed here that should be addressed, because Nintendo influencers are not normal people. I won't name any names because I don't want to start any beef, but I will show them on screen and put channel links below and probably refer to them by name at least a couple times. These dudes rely on the controversy and continued success of all things Nintendo to fuel their content and retain their audience. There's a reason these channels all started gaining traction during the Switch generation, and that's because no one cared about whatever bullshit Nintendo was doing to keep the Wii U on life support beforehand. So yes, I'm sure your favorite Nintendo content creator has expressed their distaste for the pricing of the Switch 2 in some capacity. I'm sure they were even able to squeeze out a couple extra videos to capitalize off the rage. But how many of them are actively advocating that you, the audience, don't buy the console? None. Of course they aren't, because they essentially built their whole business model to mimic Nintendo's popularity writ small. And yes, they profit off of controversy, as does Nintendo. I mean, the pre-order debacle alone is probably going to make people want the Switch 2 more. But ultimately, Nintendo's success and market growth is crucial for their channels to stay alive. Because if no one gives a shit about the Switch 2, then no one gives a shit about what these guys have to say about it. Now, with all that said, do I actually think that Zach from Switch Force is trying to get you, the audience member, to buy a Switch 2 despite the price point solely for his benefit? No, not really, but keep in mind, a lot of these people who were initially talking shit about the Switch 2 pricing and are now shrugging it off also need to buy this for work. This thing is a tax write-off for them. So even though Sunbro Nation and Spawn Wave and RGT85 and Nintendo Prime and oh wait, I wasn't gonna name names. Well, okay, even though all the nameless influencers are now on board with the pricing, what does this mean for the average consumer? Well, if you look at the pre-orders, it bodes well. Very well. Everyone's saying this thing is going to do historic numbers. It's going to be the biggest console launch of all time, and it's definitely shaping up to look like that. But that brings us to the second caveat. The Nintendo fans versus the average Joe. Nintendo consoles have always done very well at launch, even the Wii U. And this is because Nintendo has more brand-loyal consumers than any other video game company in existence. Those are the people out there placing multiple Switch 2 pre-orders in case one gets canceled. Those are the people out there buying the $50 webcam that has the same quality as the cameras they used to take pictures of Sasquatch, and those are the people falling for the clickbait of Nintendo influencers on a near-daily basis. How do I know? Because I'm one of them. I was there at midnight of April 23rd watching a Jake Randall live stream trying to secure a pre-order of this system with my hard-earned money. And I was also there the next day at GameStop waiting in a physical line outside the store an hour and a half before they opened just to have a backup pre-order, even though I already secured 2 the night before. Now who the hell told me to do this, you may be asking? The answer is no one. Except Jake Randall. In fact, I blame Jake Randall for pretty much everything wrong in my life. But here's what was interesting about this whole thing, and what really made me rethink the Switch 2 hype entirely. After I realized the horrendous overkill I committed by securing 3 separate pre-orders, I decided I would do the noble thing and offer my extras to people I knew at cost. And you know what happened? They all said no. I offered it to multiple people, including casuals and Nintendo enthusiasts, and all of them said that they'd love to get a Switch 2 but couldn't afford it right now. Now, does this just mean that all my friends are broke? Well, yeah, a lot of them are, but they're also just not tapped in the same way I am. Even those who bought into the first Switch did so in their teenage years, and are now heading into their mid to late 20s, and just don't want to spend $50,000 on a toy. Which, I can't relate to, but I can respect. Now, with all this taken into consideration, is the Switch 2 going to sell well? I mean, yeah, probably, at least at first. But I can't help but feel like these record-breaking pre-order sales are directly tied to a record-breaking amount of Nintendo addicts such as myself who were gonna buy it regardless. Nintendo picked up a lot of new die-hard fans during the Switch generation, but the key to their console's longevity is whether or not it keeps selling after all the geeks buy into the first wave, which only time will tell. I'm obviously very excited for this console launch, and while I wouldn't say I'm proud necessarily to be someone who will buy anything Nintendo puts out, I am happy to be along for the ride during such an exciting time. If you're angry at Nintendo because you can't afford a Switch 2 or you just flat out don't want to drop the money, I also completely understand that. Look, I love Nintendo games, more than I'm comfortable admitting, but I would never go to bat for Nintendo the Corporation, because Nintendo the Corporation would take that same bat and cave my skull in with it if it helped their bottom line. And to all the Nintendo influencers I definitely didn't name drop in this video, I understand why you sometimes have to drop clickbaiting schlock in between actual video game news. I get it, you gotta make money somehow, and I'm not gonna judge you for that. Even if I find some of your business practices to be a little hollow and manipulative, guess what? I'm a grown-ass adult, so it's my own damn fault I keep falling for it. Yeah, that's right, I'm a fucking idiot. And finally, to you, my fellow consumers, I'm not gonna tell you to buy a Switch 2 or not, because at the end of the day, I don't care. If you have the extra money and wanna spend it, please, go ahead. You should. It'll be fun. And if you don't have the money, well, don't buy it, obviously. I mean, Jesus Christ, feed your family, you sick fuck. But if you did secure a pre-order or are looking to do so, all I ask is that you reflect on who you are and who you listen to.